Hello, hello. Wow, getting some real interesting glare there. Hopefully that'll go away. So went and saw another one. Been kind of catching up on all my movies here, and kind of clearing my head through orientation, like I said last night. So just got out of The Shallows, the shark movie. This is the one out of all the films I've kind of seen this week. This is the one I've been the most anxious to see. One of the things I really love about doing these reviews, and I don't really know if anyone really watches them or cares, but one of the things I really like about doing them, aside from just the fact that they're fun, is that they make me kind of get out and see some of these films that I probably wouldn't go see otherwise. If I wasn't doing these, I probably wouldn't have gone and seen things like Mr. Right or Criminal or Hello, My Name is Doris, or Eye in the Sky or anything like that. Part of the fun has been going and seeing kind of these smaller films that don't get as much play, And yeah, some of them suck. Some of them you waste your money on, but sometimes you really find a diamond in the rough and you find something really great. And this was one of those movies. It got really great reviews all through the summer, but it didn't play a lot, and I had to really scrounge around to go find it. And it really, really was a good movie. A small movie, a quiet movie, a kind of a one-woman show from Blake Lively, who I'd only seen in two other things before this and really didn't think much of her in it. She really didn't leave that much of an impression, and she kind of still doesn't, but in this film, where she's playing kind of an every woman, that works. So anybody who doesn't know the story, it is about a girl who's out surfing off Mexico, and she gets trapped kind of on this rock because there's a great white shark feeding nearby. And she's like only about 200 yards from land, but obviously she's not going to make it. Her leg gets injured, and she kind of has to figure out a way to survive. And it's a really nice film, kind of in that spirit, almost like The Martian, only not as sci-fi-y and science-y, where it's a person kind of surviving. It's one of those person versus nature films where the person has to survive just by their wits and their cunning and what they can come up with on the spot with what they have available. And she's good. It's really intense. God, it's really hard to say because there's not much to the movie. It's very, very simple. And in that's its genius. It doesn't overdo anything too much. First of all, I'll kind of start at the beginning. The cinematography of this is gorgeous. A lot of the first chunk of the movie before the shark happens is her surfing. And just the cinematography of this beach off Mexico and the waves and the underwater footage. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. It's like a travelogue. You can just watch that for an hour and you're just like, oh my God, it's gorgeous. So that was really good. Asshole on a motorcycle. Anyway, so that was great. It also seemed like this film was the best possible product of all these different elements. It had suspense, much in the same way that a Hitchcock film has suspense. I'm not a big horror movie fan, mainly because a lot of them, especially these days, are so samey. That's one. Number two, a lot of them are just very gory and pointlessly gory. And I'm not a big gore fan. I like to be shocked. I like suspense. I like to know that there's something out there and not know when it's going to strike. Again, kind of the Hitchcock and classic Spielberg kind of thing. And this movie delivers that in spades. It's really well done. You know the thing is out there. You know it's coming for her, but you never quite know when it's going to jump. It is kind of the modern day Jaws without remaking Jaws. It has a lot of those, obviously it's going to draw those comparisons, but it really does kind of have the best elements of that. I also think one thing I really love about this movie, again, kind of comparing it to Jaws, which I think is high praise. I'm not doing that kind of like I was doing with the Independence Day and Independence Day Resurgent. I'm not comparing them kind of to be negative. I'm comparing them in a good way. Is that you don't see the shark that often. You see the shadow, or you see the outline, or you see just this shape coming towards her. And that's great, because once again, that sells the suspense, because obviously if you were there on the island, you wouldn't see everything. So you don't get to see it until it's like right there in front of you. It seems like this film also did a really nice job of taking kind of the better aspects of a found footage movie. This isn't a found footage movie, but it takes those good aspects, like how we're all constantly recording ourselves, like I'm doing right now. The constant media coverage and all of that, and using it to its advantage. She finds a GoPro on a helmet that one of the surfers was using, and uses it to record a goodbye message, which really reminded me a little bit of the similar ones in the Blair Witch Project or Cloverfield or ones like that. But didn't do it with it used that really nice element of a found footage movie, that kind of honesty and that visceral kind of immediacy, without having to stoop to the problems of a found footage movie, i.e., why is this person never shutting the camera off, or why are they holding a camera through these life-threatening situations. So it took the better elements of all these genres and glued them together. And Blake Lively, again, I have to give her credit for really selling it. Boy, howdy. And this is another thing that the director and the actor and the makeup and all that do really well. And pardon me, because I try not to swear too much on these, because, I just try not to. But man, oh man, does Blake Lively get the shit kicked out of her in this movie. Oh my God. The shark, the rocks, the buoy she's on smacks her in the head. She gets cut on coral. And every time it happens, you're like, oh. I mean, it really makes you feel it without showing you too much, without, exposing you to every gory detail. There's like one really kind of gory moment in it that maybe they could have done without, but I honestly, within the realm of the film, I think it needed to be in there just to show how she survived. So it used the gore when it needed it, and not just to get a gore scare out of you. So that was really fantastic. Is everything about this movie great? No, there's a couple of things that don't work. The special effects on the shark are kind of 50-50. Like I say, most of the time it's just the shape or the shadow, but as the film goes on, you see it more and more and more. And there were a couple shots in there where it looked bloody real. I mean, I would have sworn, having watched Shark Week and some of those nature documentaries on BBC, I would have sworn they had footage of a real shark. So there were some points where it looked and moved and everything just really, really real. And then there were other times when it looked too cartoony, it moved too fast, or the snout just, it had too much about and I've seen those things on Discovery and BBC, and you don't get that much expression out of a shark's face. You just don't. And there are times when it really did look cartoony. The ending, I'm not going to spoil how she gets out of it. Of course, I just spoiled it, sorry. But the ending, again, had a little bit of a cartoony Jaws 2, 3, 4 kind of feel to it, which it built to, and you were like, and you're sitting there on the seat going, oh, and then when it happens, your first instinct is, oh, expletive here, and then your second emotion is, that looked kind of corny. So it doesn't ruin the film, but it is kind of a thing. There's one other thing I didn't like, and this is a personal thing for me. It doesn't take away from the movie, but I don't think it was necessary. So one thing I really like about this movie is you don't know a lot about this girl. We don't spend a lot of time going in flashbacks to see, why she's going surfing. They let you kind of in on this backstory that, her mother died of cancer, and this is the beach where her mother went surfing when she found out that she was pregnant with Blake Lively. And, she's going back there to reconnect, and she's quit med school, and, her father wants her to go back to med school, but she just can't. She has to figure life out, and blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of that I just didn't want to know. It felt a little too pat, a little too, and I'm going to use this term, and I'm sorry to use this term because it's a bit of a derogatory term, but it's a little too chick flicky. She has to go figure her life out, and the survival will teach her to be strong. You didn't need any of that to enjoy this movie. What made this movie work was that she was an every person, an every woman. I didn't need to know her name. One of my favorite movies and plays, as anybody who knows me will attest, is 12 Angry Men, Jurors, whatever. And what I love about that play and film is that you don't know anything about the jurors. You don't know their names, you don't know their backstories, you don't know their histories, except what they give you in relationship to the situation that they are in. What you know about them is how they are reacting to the situation. And that's all you need to know. And those are some of the best written characters ever. And I think this film would have worked a lot better if you didn't know all this stuff about her. I didn't need this corny, boys don't cry backstory with her dad. I didn't need to know that she, you didn't need it. You just didn't need it. You could have gotten away with cutting a lot of that out, keeping she records a little goodbye message to her father and sister when she's on the rock. Kind of talked about that earlier. And you could have left that in there, because that would have told you kind of all. Again, it's letting us know things that are a direct reaction to the situation she is in. She has, instead of giving us this whole thing of her flipping through her phone and seeing pictures of her mom in the cancer out, the rag and all that, she has this line when she's saying goodbye. She says, and Dad, I just want you to know I'm going to keep fighting just like she taught us. That's all I needed. That told me everything I needed to know. And it didn't slow the movie down or feel tacked on to do it. So I feel like they could have cut a lot of that out. They have a 1 year later thing at the end, which again is, kind of cathartic for the audience. But I think in the grand scheme of things, you didn't need. So that's a nitpick, because again, it doesn't ruin the movie. The movie is still damn good. And another thing that's kind of interesting is that this of the three movies I've seen this week, this is the shortest movie by far. It's only about an hour and a half. But, and I mean this in a good way, because normally when you say this, it's not in a complimentary way. It feels longer. Watching this poor girl go through her, her ordeal and fighting to survive and all the things and the hardships and all that, you felt like you were out there with her, and you felt like, you were experiencing it with her. Like I said, every time she gets hit, every time something happens, you're there like it's happening to you. So that's a credit to the director and to the actor, for selling that and making you feel that, for taking a short, very simple story and weighing it with meaning. And you don't see a lot of films like that anymore. You don't see a lot of films that just trust in their script, trust in the director, trust in the character, and trust in the actor to pull off. And this is a hard movie to kind of pull off, especially when it is kind of one person. One-person films are very difficult to pull off. Actors need another actor to bounce off of and to react to. And when they don't have that, that's why, Tom Hanks talked to the volleyball. That's why most one-person shows on Broadway are monologues delivered directly to the audience. And she carried this movie. They did give her, I liked this touch, but I think sometimes it pulled me out of it. They gave her a cute little animal sidekick. She's stuck on the rock with a seagull that was injured in the initial shark attack. It dislocates its wing. So she and the seagull are stuck on this island. Why it worked is because she didn't name it and have long conversations with it, and give it some kind of, impose some kind of personality on it, like Tom Hanks does with the volleyball. No, it was a bird, and it was something she could react to and talk to, and do that. But she never went so far. She names it, but I think it's more just as a joke when she mentions the name when she's talking to her sister on the GoPro there. And again, it wasn't the Wilson thing. So that in that aspect, it really worked. And the way it didn't work is that you have this incredibly intense moment. And one thing, when you direct, or when you're in a show, when you're in a very heavy show, you'll notice that the audience will find a reason to laugh. And the other actors or actors I've directed have always said, well, why'd they laugh at that? What? And it's because it's a tense moment and it's an uncomfortable situation. And when that happens, people look for something to kind of lighten that burden. They're looking for something to laugh at so they can release some of that tension. And that kind of comes into play here because the bird, she's going through all this intense stuff, and then you turn around, there's this bird kind of looking at the camera, just kind of, a very bird, And so sometimes, I don't know if they meant it to be that way, but I'm looking at it, I'd laugh, and I realize, again, you're doing it to kind of relieve the tension, and I don't know if they meant to do that, or if it was just kind of the result of having the bird there. But again, it was another very simple touch, very small thing that really, really paid off. I wish this movie, from what I hear, again, it got a lot of great critical acclaim. I haven't heard anybody badmouth it, but I think it got swallowed up in this kind of mediocre summer. We had a lot of big name films, but nothing that really made a splash, no pun intended. And I think with the bigger names, the bigger reboots and reimaginings and all that, this little quiet original film kind of got, again, no pun intended, kind of got swallowed up. And I don't know how well it did at the box office, but it deserved to do better. This is a sign, and again, especially in this overly bloated summer where a lot of special effects pictures and, stuff that's just kind of riding on the title of something else. This was an excellent film to show how a really talented director and a really talented actor and a really smart, tight script, how that can be more impactful, more suspenseful, more thrilling, and an all-around better time than some of these big blockbusters, and I kind of wish it would have gotten a bit more play. So obviously I'm recommending this, and you've probably either A, already seen it, or B, missed it, and you're not going to be able to see it in the theater because it's going out of theaters quick as the last rush of the summer blockbusters are coming out. I had to go see it at the Wolf Chase Galleria, which usually is for films that have already gone out of the bigger theaters. So when this comes on Netflix, when this comes on TV, or when it's available to rent from direct or whatever, take a gander at it. It's a good movie. Watch it with the lights off, just kind of get that feeling of isolation. But it's a good movie. It deserves an audience. So I implore you, go check this one out when you can. So that's kind of it. I don't think I'm going to do another one of these. this week. I think I've spent kind of enough time at the movies, but you don't know. I know, some stuff's coming out maybe tomorrow night. I've got yet another orientation tomorrow, so I might need, a little bit more breathing time. So, who knows? I might do another one. If not, here's 3 new ones for you. I had a great time going to the movies. Hope you had a great time watching these. So until next time, drive safe. I'll see you at the movies.